It's been an entire event, a whole PGL Astana since we've done a Feed the Trolls. That is because the hotel internet in Astana was absolute ass. So I didn't record anything. Maui apparently got on and everything was good, but I'd given up at that point and I was at the bar. But welcome to another episode. I got Thorin and Voo with us. I'm now coming to you live from a Scandic in Stockholm. And if you've ever stayed in a Scandic, you'll know I'm having the best time. It's great, yeah. It's fantastic. Gents,
put it this way, Swedes living up to the stereotype. Quite minimalistic, isn't it, Sam? Not really the most luxurious thing. Sort of a bit bare bones, you know.
Oh, and if you knew how it started yesterday.
And then that classic one, if you want some usual complaints, if you're a fan and you don't know the esports law, if you ever go to events in like the Nordic region, you'd think you were in like a really nice boys' prison. Like the beds are always like that really small single bed, and then they push two of them together for the double, which by the way is a nightmare because they just fall in between that all the time. Oh, it's mental, isn't it? They do the thing where they always tuck the feet in at the bottom of the bed. Oh, there's some classic ones.
And the best is now, so I have the two single beds, which I've pushed together. But then they put the two single bed duvets on top of them.
The worst.
But in this Scandic, you can't control the AC. So that means like
is it always chilly? I'm guessing. I bet they keep it quite low.
Yeah, it's always chilly.
Because they're on some climate thing, aren't they? They don't want to go too high. Yeah.
But now I've got like these two single bed duvets that it's a whole thing. But you know what? This is it. Everyone has to have a Scandic in their life, and this is my Scandic. So here we go. Voo, I hope you never have a Scandic. And I don't know if you've stayed at one.
No, the hotel I stayed at, I actually forgot, but I remembered I actually fell through the bed in the middle of the night.
There you go. Classic. Yeah, classic.
That's the thing, right? It's so absurd to me because I'm like couples. I'm pretty sure couples get in here.
I don't know what to do. I know.
Yeah, you get a little bit too excited after a night out and you're falling right through the middle. But I digress. The hotel in Astana, other than the internet, was actually really
looked awesome,
sick. That event was pretty sick. And that's what we're going to be talking about. We're doing like a bit of a debrief. We're a little bit late, but here we are. So, I mean, obviously, the first question is, do you both agree with me that HooXi is back and Astralis will win the next major?
I would actually remember, just to remind me, Voo, obviously when that HooXi and G2 topic, like, it was basically like a year ago, it's height. Where were you actually at on that? Were you one of the people who should have been removed from G2? Were you a defender? Where were you at on that one?
I thought HooXi should have been given a chance with the changed roster. I know exactly why he wasn't after Dallas. Like, it's kind of obvious he couldn't. But I think HooXi did get too much flack because when you look at the series they lost, it was like Nexa's playing terrible. And then it's like, there's series they lost where it was just like HooXi was like the second frag a couple of times in series they lost. It's like if
there were some games where Nico wasn't as good. People do forget that for sure.
I mean, if you have your whole system set around Nico and Monacy and the rest of your roster sucks, and Hunter was playing quite bad at the time.
Yeah.
Eventually they're not going to show up. Not even their own fault. Eventually they're not going to show up, and you're going to lose. It's like I know why it's obvious why they removed them, but I do think they would have done a lot better than with Snacks. Like.
By the way, I will give you that, but I also think there's a sort of poetic, karmic irony in that, Voo. Because think about that. What is the original thing all of us Alexi B fans said when HooXi got that team? Yeah, but Alexi B didn't get your team with JKS. He should have had a chance at that. So what do you know, HooXi? You probably could have won the things with the Malps lineup, but you didn't get a chance. Everyone now thinks you had the same lineup as fucking Snacks did, but you obviously didn't. So in some ways, that is actually a poetic irony. Like, he just got the same thing done to him that was done to his predecessor. But to go back to the original question, I do think if people even go back to those episodes, I actually always thought, especially Astralis, should have considered this guy. Like, to me, that's almost a slam dunk that you at least give it a go. Because my issue was, I think that G2 roster could potentially have won everything and should have probably been number one. So to me, even though they won those like prestige events, the fact he didn't do anything at the majors, that's not enough for me. So I don't think he should have had the G2 job. And with Voo, by the way, if I actually knew the option was Snacks, though, that's different, isn't it? I thought the option was like, go get Shui or something. If I knew that, then I would change my mind. But I do think that he should have had to go a level lower. But that's actually where I think he's almost at the perfect level now with Astralis. Like, now you can have a team where it already looks like it could be top 10. You can maybe mix it up with bigger squads. By the way, you also in this team, this is why it's a perfect squad to go to, we can actually see what you're doing in this team. It was really hard in the Nico Monacy team because as people saw when you left, Nico Monacy was still really fucking good. Like, they do, the joke is they do call their own number, don't they? Whereas in this team, I could already see like Yabi looked way better, the way he's using stairs. But I actually do think you've already seen impact. So yeah, I think it's a good move. I like it.
I actually think this is crazy, but I feel like the community narrative kind of seeped in, like, and that might be why HooXi didn't get an immediate job, because the narrative was that he was useless and could not shoot people. I don't know if pros are analyzing HooXi that much. They're just going off of what everyone says.
Oh, right.
Everyone says he's shit. Then they're
look, the eye test on his like crosshair didn't look good, but I did think he was always clearly a competent IGL to me. I just didn't think he was like truly world class. And by the way, I will say, technically, he did do some of it to himself, because if you remember, the story originally was they actually apparently offered Gamer Legion a swap. Like, he could have gone and be the IGL of Gamer Legion. So that's also why I don't have as much sympathy for HooXi as other people. As far as I can tell, for real, he was like turning his nose up like, Gamer Legion? No, thank you. It's like, well, you know what, bitch? Back of the line then. You can wait for Shuey and all them to have their turn first. Like, I've heard that that's a problem, Voo. Is you're right. Of the really top teams, none of them were giving this guy a chance, by the way. In fact, like, as you saw with the Australians, apparently he wasn't even on their radar initially. But my problem is, I heard that if you went to that level below of, you know, the Gamer Legion, NIP, the Fnacs of the world, I've heard he was the one maybe sort of being like, no, I'll wait and see. And I actually think, by the way, props to him that it worked out in this case, although technically, I will point this out for the millionth time, because everyone forgets it. He's not actually in Australis, you know. I do believe they said he's like a stand-in or like a trial or something like that. Because obviously at the moment they might not be in Australis is the joke. Go a couple of episodes back. There's the one with Lurpus. We talked about that already. But the key thing to me is this, is I do think that people missed that, like, he almost blew it by waiting too long, sort of on the bench, as it were. Because, I mean, amazingly, so far, no one's actually killed their career doing that. If you think about it, right? JKS almost didn't get away with it, but he sort of did. He got the Liquid comeback. Simple's obviously come back now. Dexter came back. But I'll tell you what, the difference is, I always said this about HooXi. Those guys, mate, show me in the server that they're good. Your problem if you're an IGL is, the second we forget what you did, you're done, mate. Like, sadly, a lot of people weren't when they were talking about, like, for example, when people said Team Liquid need a new IGL, very few people mentioned HooXi's name. Even though, by the way, I also think that would have been an appropriate job to potentially consider him for. But I actually heard, I'll give you a little bit of inside info here. Put it this way, it wasn't just fans' view. I'll just say, let's say players on the levels of the Team Liquids of the world. I just heard some of them didn't fuck HooXi either, mate. Some of them were like, nah, I'm all right, actually. I think I'll stick with the guy we got, you know.
To be fair, if you look at his fragging, he just has like the worst movement of all time.
He does.
It's the eye test of his fragging is the worst of anyone I've ever seen in Tier 1.
He's also got that thing, though, like MSL. Even though he's not actually that old, he looks like he's 30 already. You know what I mean? Like, he also just looks like a 35-year-old. He's, as far as I know, he's actually still like in his prime. He should still be playing.
I don't know where I read this, and now I'm worried that it was probably on Reddit and it's absolute bullshit. But when the whole cadiaN's signing for Australis originally happened, obviously the conversation was, why didn't HooXi get considered? And I'm sure I read somewhere that Rugger, the Australis,
I think it was an interview. I believe he said it in an interview.
He literally said like HooXi wasn't even, I just didn't even consider him. He's not someone I'd want, which is funny because now you're standing behind him. But
and they all glaze him now in the interviews. They're all like, hey, it's all you, HooXi. Oh, divisive. You're just amazing what you're doing. But it's like, you didn't think so fucking 9 months ago, did you?
Well, that was what I was so confused about. And obviously, like, I think Feed the Trolls came about just before HooXi got dropped by G2. So we fed, we got to feed on a lot of that HooXi hate. We did numerous episodes about HooXi.
Loads. It's probably the most discussed topic on this show, literally.
That's true. I actually should have told him that. I did actually go and say congratulations. I should have told him in Astana, thank you. You were like the first 3 episodes of our show. Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
But HooXi, we just had all those comments of HooXi hate. So I loved how Astana completely changed the narrative.
Right.
But also, I do think if you look at him, like the dude clearly, like he's been looking after himself. He's looking a lot healthier. But he said he's just been like going to gym and playing. And then I think he gets on the stage and he does that. He's not in Australis. He was on loan. It's a really good advert for after the major to be like, look what I've done. And what I think is quite fun is that HooXi, Shuey, Yakinda, like none of them are actually signed to these teams. Like they're all going to be free agents when the major's done. So just imagine the chaos that's now going to ensue, because we've seen that they're all playing really well. So like all of a sudden it's like, wait, there's better offerings out there. And like HooXi even, it's like revitalized Voo for a team that may be unhappy with their IGL. This might be quite interesting to look at now.
We're talking a lot of good about HooXi, but at the same time, I feel like there's at least a 30-40% chance he goes to his next event and is all of a sudden just as bad as he was individually before. And everyone's like, oh my God, he's terrible.
Could be.
Yeah, I mean, like, because everyone's flipped so much that HooXi's amazing. He was not this individually good on G2. He just wasn't. He just wasn't. He was a lot worse. And whether that's because he hasn't been IGLing, he hasn't had to waste the time doing that, he's been practicing a lot, or whether he's just kind of like was in a bad mental space at the time, we can't really know. But if he returns to that G2 level, it's still going to be the big what if that he's got good T sides, but on CT side, he just gets isolated, he just gets attacks, he just dies. The same thing that's happening with the snacks, same thing that happens to any weak fragging IGL. It's just
I know what you mean. If you mean for community narratives, the community narrative will always be, if you lose badly, whoever bottom fragged, even if they're the IGL, is the bottom. Because all you need to know is that's literally what even Zimu fans did to Apex, for fuck's sake. And he's, by the way, a really good fragger for an IGL. So, like, that just shows me, it's why actually the people who really sort of skate by in these teams is the player who's not the IGL, but he's the second worst player. They're the ones who get by, because the difference is the HooXi's and the Snappies of the world get kicked, and then those guys get to stay, because to a fan just looking at the rating, they look like they're not the big problem. And with you, though, I do think the second he does a bad job, the same people will hate. Because, you know, that was another thing you must have loved. If you don't know, Voo used to, we don't talk about this much, but he used to actually be a Reddit moderator. So we know he reads Reddit. And one of the things about Reddit was they were doing that thing I love where they talk and it's like, bro, not only are these people in the room, it was you. You know where they were going? And all of you, remember everyone said this guy was shit. And I'm like, that was you. That was all of you on Reddit and HLTV forums. Like, you were the ones every time he bought Frank wrote that. It's like, the joke is, that wasn't even me and Maui and Voo and all the rest of them. Like, we all had like measured takes. It was you guys who kept saying he should be kicked and he's terrible. Now what's mad is, like a movie, you all feel happy and it's like a feel-good story. So now you're all on the comeback trail. But what's sick is, like some perverse tabloid, you created the scenario where his life was ruined. And now you get to feel like, oh, I'm lifting him up. Like, you are sick. This community is sick.
The great thing about those Reddit threads, by the way, I actually go into all of them because it gives such good, like, a temperature check on where the lunatics are in the community. And then I can just play off of that for all of my videos, the titles, like just the arguments I make. They all come from, like, what's some crazy shit some Redditor said in the post-match thread. It works flawlessly, actually. People love it. It's actually
for sure
underrated.
I just got the greatest YouTube tip of all time, so I'm gonna start.
It is a good one, actually. Yeah.
Okay, so Voo, you're not buying the Astralis hype right now. They had a good run. I mean, to be fair, I think PGL, what was it? PGL Cluj, they had a great run with
They were
cadiaN.
all right, that one, yeah.
Yeah, they came third. So like they just have good times at PGL. We got to see what happens after this, which we don't know if we will. We don't even know if Astralis exists after this, to be fair.
Yep.
I've been really ready to be out on Stown for so long because, I mean, the thing is, I wasn't as negative on the previous Astralis as a lot of other people were.
Okay.
When you look at that roster, I feel like they were close to right, but cadiaN was just not nearly good enough on CT side. And I swear to God, at times, it has felt like Stown has been intentionally throwing so that cadiaN will get cut. Whenever they get to a game that's like, if we win this, we actually might be a good team, Stown just does 2 or 3 round losing plays in super important rounds for no reason. And it's like, are you just have it in for cadiaN? Like, this is insane. So like the possibility of that just coming back is always there. But they do have, like, they have potential, they have promise, they have some things going for them. The question is, I think HooXi is more of a system IGL. If he can get them on the same page, so much of what their problems have been is things like just not understanding their win condition, throwing flashes that don't make sense, timings that don't make sense. So much of it just not being on the same page. I think HooXi's actually good at that. So I actually think over time, the team has a lot of potential if HooXi stays with them, which is still, I guess, an if.
I think that they are literally all sitting waiting for some team to not get visas to the major. I think I saw a tweet about it. It was maybe the major, like giggle, giggle. So if that happens, I presume HooXi goes with. Otherwise,
I think the news today is that there might be a team that's definitely missing the major. At least that's what
the fact it's in America makes it likely there's at least one anyway. Come on, you know.
They're waiting. Like they're waiting. They need a HooXi for that. So I presume that's what the plan is that they shoehorn him in for their emergency major spots.
And by the way, I do imagine that put it this way. I actually think he would have just already been signed. I think it's just the whole Astralis org up in the air thing of like, because in that scenario, the logic also goes, you don't always know if people buy the org. Are they getting all the existing contracts? Do they want to be burdened by those? Are they cutting people? So I think also they just don't know where the CS division. I don't personally take it as like a diss against him that like, we're not sure if we want him yet. Like, I think they would sign him properly if they knew they had like proper funding.
Maybe just to jump off the back of something Voo said about HooXi and like the commentary and whether or not pros pay any attention to it. Is this the end of cadiaN's IGLing career?
This is the end of his entire
career.
Chance
to be a fine thing. Fucking hell. Get him on the desk. He's really good on the desk, I think. You know. No, here's the problem. It is, and here's why. Because actually, the biggest mistake he made was accepting that gig in Astralis. That'll sound weird because it was obviously a chance to like bounce back. No, because in my opinion, he was never going to make it or not on the ARP. I think his biggest mistake ever was give up the ARP, because before that, people, if they recruit you, would already take into account, like, right, he has to be the ARPer in somewhere, but he can make it work. And like, now, actually, people are just going to think of it. I don't think he's going to put it this way. I don't think he's going to get just a pure ARPer job only. And I don't think anyone will take him as both IGL and ARPer. So I don't know right now if he wants to be the player he used to be. I don't know how he does that. Because I also think if you just look at the raw, like, crosshair aim of him in Astralis, it was really bad. Like, he had some night, like, people made the point about the SMGs. That was pretty bad. But like, the reason why that's so significant is, remember, that's normally the weapon that all the like shit players and IGLs are really good with. Like, the joke is the HooXi's and the Magics, they fucking farm with those weapons, mate. cadiaN was like unusually bad with that. So unfortunately, it's not even that I don't think anyone would pick him as IGL, but I feel like his role's going to be really bizarre. Like, will he be the ARPer? Will he just be essentially a bot who IGLs? I don't know. So I also think, unfortunately, too many people behind the scenes have heard the stories that like there are some pretty bad stories about like essentially it's the dark side of what you like about him, the way he's a big personality, and it's all about it. Yeah, that there's a dark side to that. So I think if some people have heard the stories, and those do tend to circulate among top pros, that's another reason, by the way, by being in TL and Astralis, everyone's heard the stories now, mate. So I don't know if people will gamble on him at this point in time, unfortunately. I also don't know where he'd go now.
He was also like stuck with this like situation where he was just getting the op as much as possible because he could not rifle. Yep. Even like, I think it was Yakindar made like it sounded like a low-key shot at cadiaN where Fallen's not just someone that's going to try and pick up the op whenever he can. I'm like, you're talking about cadiaN right now, aren't you? Like, that's how he's seen as someone that's bad, so bad he has to pick up the op, which is just not a good narrative.
Well, cadiaN, you're not busy now. I don't know if you watch the show, but I'm going to make a plea to you. Like, you know, you're not busy. I know you probably don't want to go on a date, but you should come on the show and tell us what happened at Astralis. We're inviting you to join us. He won't, but I'm trying anyway. Talking about, you know, the ARP to rifler. That is a curious one for me. Voo, what did you think about Fallen's new role in FURIA and the FURIA lineup overall?
So I did say multiple times that like Fallen was what terrible.
Who fucks with Fallen as an IGL still, put it that way. You do, don't you?
I think his IGLing didn't make sense for him with the op on T side.
Right.
But with the rifle, it makes a lot of sense. I think his IGLing works a lot better. And for some reason, I've looked at every game Fallen played in that event. The first couple games, he looked terrible, even though he did like statistically like not that bad. There's something, if you've watched a lot of CS, you know what I'm talking about. Oppers that he just doesn't look like a rifler. He's holding op angles with the rifle. He's completely static. He just doesn't know what he's doing. That's what I saw that made me say before, he's terrible with rifles. Switching him to the rifle is questionable. Keep him on the op, even though he's not perfect, he's okay. But then all of a sudden he just kind of turned it around at some point, like just fucking magically became a rifler at some point during the tournament. And I guess I just didn't see it. I do see that the timings he pulls on T side is exactly why you see IGLs like Stewie 2K always wants to IGL and Yakinder wants to IGL, because they see these gaps and they can exploit them. And on the maps that Fury is good at, especially in Anubis, Fallen does that a lot, and he finds really good gaps, catches people on the side all the time. He's doing a lot of like smart plays. CT side defending, if he's going to be good enough with the rifle aim wise, is still up for debate. But yeah, I'd say I'm kind of sold on him as a rifler at the moment. I'm a little sold.
Thorin, he's never retiring. Fallen will be with us forever. That's apparently what I've realized.
You know, the worst thing about that is I actually do think if you look at how cynically they've all done those interviews in FURIA, I know Fallen. I've met him in real life many, many times. All I can tell you is I actually think this was literally part of his plan. It's like years earlier when finally the Brazilians fell off. It's like he constructed like a 10-year plan of how do I keep playing and keep getting that big salary. And one of the plans was, unlike cadiaN, you wait till the last minute to give up the ARP. Then when you give up the ARP, then you get that period where it's like, listen, I'm still transitioning to being a rifler. So you get like a nice little 6 months off that. And also then, by the way, then you get to like claim all the success of the ARP. Like, yeah, well, I know how to use ARPs. You know, it's like some bullshit narrative. And then the joke eventually will be, then when he literally can't frag anyone anymore, he'll just be the coach. You're right. This guy is never retiring ever. He's never retiring.
So I had a moment.
Never.
I'm so happy about that, one. And two, when they beat Spirits, completely unrealistic of me, but like the fangirl from like many years ago.
You thought we were going to win the series.
I jumped up. I started shouting in the green room. I was like, this is it. They're going to win the series. Device and Fallen on the stage. Grand final. My first arena. This is like the best day of my life. And Maui was like, shut the fuck up. Like, that's where I was at.
That would have been the worst final ever. Like, I think we have to just, everyone would immediately go, who cares who won that event? Like, with FURIA and Astralis in the final. Like, even if even if they deserved it.
You know what the thing is, Voo? Everyone would have hated it except me. And that's, at that point, that was all I cared about. I would have been happy. It would have been Device and Fallen. They would have walked on the stage, and then I wouldn't have watched the actual game because it would have been
we've learned one thing so far, Sam, is that the right family, it turns out it runs in the family. It turns out your family are just incredibly drawn to like sentimental, like almost like nostalgic, feel-good storylines. Because as you said on Twitter, Tech Mom or Mech Mom or whatever you call her, she actually apparently told Sam, like, hey, your spirit's like coming back in this game. Like, what the fuck? What? She's doing that as well. So it just runs in the family, I guess. Okay.
My mom actually sat and watched. So she had surgery like the day before Astana started. So for the first time, she literally just sat and watched Counter-Strike. The first day, she spent the whole day watching the B stream by mistake. And was absolutely she was obviously watching to see me, but at one point she's like,
oh, and you went on it, right? Okay.
Yeah, she goes, who are Machine and Sponge? And why are they in their pajamas in like a bedroom? And I had to explain to her the B stream and that they were in Sponge's room.
I appreciate that she actually fired a shot at them, not even being professional while at home to still dress up. She doesn't know, but inadvertently straight fire. Tell her props for that one. Love that one.
I did have a giggle about that one. And then she obviously moved over, but now she doesn't have like any sort of like, she doesn't know the narratives or the stories.
Right. Okay.
So she's watching Spirit do the comeback. And obviously we're all sitting there. And I do think like if you're a fan, you kind of were watching that game going, and you're watching that particular map just being like, oh yeah, well, like it's Spirit. They were always going to come back. They're going to win the whole thing. Like, we're all pretty chilled. She sends me this message. She's like mad excited. She's like, how incredible is this comeback from Team Spirit? It really looks in the first half like they weren't going to do it. It's just, they're so talented. Like, they're doing such a good job. And she was so excited. And it got me, like, it just reminded me that, like,
do you want a black pill? If you literally just listened back to what you just said, that sounded like you opening a desk segment after the map 2.
It's Fallen. It's true.
And they came back, guys. What do you think? It even sounded like your vibe. You had it tuned in totally. Okay.
That's Fallen, man. So my mom is, my mom is a big Team Spirit fan now. That's where she's at. She was very upset that Donk wasn't happy about winning. Like, she was very concerned about it.
I got to her. Okay.
Yeah. Right. She's like fully committed to them. Which is interesting because I know they won, but let's be honest, I don't think Spirit looked very good at all. Like, I am super concerned. I know why Donk wasn't smiling Voo at the end of that. Like, there's a problem in that team. There's a few problems that they're gonna have to fix very fast before they get to the major.
By the way, quickly, on the Fallen thing, I'll actually give Fallen props, which is, here's what he did do. Now, true, I'm not setting the bar high on this, if you think of the context. But he actually did, I agree, Voo. He actually did the move that cadiaN didn't. I always wondered with Fallen, does he also always have to have the AWP to be an IGL, basically? Like, is that somehow part of his game? I mean, to be fair, they were quite similar players. They also want to be in the clutch in the 1v2 with the AWP. So you think, if you take that away, don't you take away, like, their strength as a player? I actually thought, unlike cadiaN, he actually looked all right on the rifle. And the key thing was, I'm with you. His IGLing stayed, though. At least that maintained. So that actually does look plausible. You could keep running that. On the Spirit thing, I actually think it's a banger topic. But the problem is, people don't know how many inadvertent strays PGL just caught at this event. Like, your two biggest teams are Spirit and NAVI. So Blade gets eliminated and basically does a tweet where the gist is almost like, look, I know it's just a shit tier 2 event, but coming in top 8 there is really unacceptable. And if you're PGL, you're just like, really, you won my major last year, motherfucker, please. And then Spirit, you just won the event, bro. You won the event without losing a single series. And then Donk's just like, yeah, but the thing is, if we play like that, how are we ever going to win anything? Almost like, bro, like what? Even though, by the way, unfortunately, he is right. Like, this might sound weird, but even though I don't fuck with the idea that you can't sort of like, step out of it and enjoy the celebration and win it. And by the way, how about win it, cheering for like the lesser players in your team who might not be here one day, the Magics and the Choppers of the world? They're probably not going to be with you in 10 years, Donk. But I do actually agree with his sentiment. I have to say, if you look at how they won, first of all, they absolutely could have lost this final. It was actually, before the final, I would have told you, I even bet 3-0. I would have said no chance to lose this. Mate, that was, people forget, it wasn't just that last one where they almost went to the 5th map. What about that fucking nuke game? That was mad losable. So there's actually a real world where they either could have been on 5 maps or straight up lost to this standing HooXi's Astralis like fucking feel-good meme. And then also, by the way, like you say, yeah, the FURIA absolutely gave them work on that map as well. So I have to say, if I'm them, you even go look in the group stage, I think it was only Astralis in the Swiss system that they even comfortably beat. If I'm Spirit, this is actually a bit disturbing because a lot of these teams are below the level of championship contender, but you were kind of struggling to get over the line. And hasn't that really been like a problem with Spirit a lot of the case? Because remember, we're saying all that with the context that Donk is posting like impossible numbers nobody should be expected to put up event to event. So even though I do think it was a bit maudlin that he like couldn't celebrate, I know what he means. Like, if you're thinking about the major and the next event, if you play at that, you won't win it, mate.
I think Donk is like the prototypical like nerd that just plays a lot of CS and might even be like, you might even be sitting there like, what are you cheering for? I'm just shooting people in the head. Like,
Okay.
what's the point of cheering? I'm just playing the game. Like, what are you talking about? But like, Spirit is concerning, especially because if you look at the games in that event, like Chopper's getting exploited. Like there are multiple teams. Gamer Legion tried it and succeeded, even though they didn't win the game. And Astralis tried it. They're just attacking Chopper. They know what Chopper's going to do on Mirage, especially.
Yep.
On the CT side, he does. Spirit have always been like this. I don't think they have someone that anti-strats themselves, so they do a lot of the same plays. Like not like they do this like 70% of the time. They'll do stuff like 100% of the time in certain situations and for long periods of time, and nobody counters it. And they're getting kind of red. And I actually have a stat because I thought Chopper was playing kind of bad. Statistically on CT side, he's playing worse than cadiaN on CT side. He's actually been really. I saw so many times where he just had a free kill, didn't get it, or they're just waiting for him, he loses the duel. It's actually kind of unbelievable. And as much as I know some people that really want Magic's gone, up until recently, I kind of feel like if you were going to replace someone, you would actually, maybe if you were going to get Kyousuke, you would replace Zontix. But at this point, I feel like there's multiple things lacking on that roster. It's really, yeah, it is very concerning is the right way to put it. It's like, this is, if they go to the major and, but what is a bad result of the major? They're so consistent at beating the bad teams because worst case scenario, Donk's just going to shit on them. Shiro's going to win a bunch of clutches. Like it almost doesn't matter. But what they need some huge change up to beat the teams above them, I feel like.
Yes. No, that's the worst thing. I actually feel like, by the way, they are the most predictable team in every sense in the world. You know, who's going to frag, you know, what maps they're going to be good on. And by the way, what you're saying there, if you asked me their range, I think they actually have one of the most limited ranges at the major. If they play normal opposition, they don't get like the hard bracket or an easy one. My prediction would be best case scenario semis, worst case probably quarters. The problem with that, though, is this is why I bring up the donk angle. It all depends who you are in the Spirit org. If you're the guy who runs Spirit, it probably makes sense to keep Donk and be a top 4 team and sell Kyousuke. You make money, that's business. If you're the coach of Spirit, you probably want more firepower so you win the events. If you're Donk, you have to win everything because you probably play the best CS anyone's ever seen. So this is why it's so difficult, I think, when you ask, does a team need a move? You have to ask, who are we asking? Who's speaking in this analogy, you know? Because there's still nothing wrong with being 4th best team in the world. It's pretty fucking good. You can mix it up. You can maybe do a run. My problem is this. I don't want it to be almost a fluke that I win the major. Like, I'm sorry. I do think it was a fluke they won that Shanghai major. Donk posted the best numbers ever at a major, and it still took a Magic's life game to win the fucking final. Like, they actually would have come second even with those numbers.
I think that's like my biggest issue with Spirit at the moment. So one, for you to answer your first question, for me, Spirit not in the finals at the major is a failure. And I say that because Donk is the generational talent. He is the superstar. If he is not in the finals, that is a failure. Like for me, as if I ran Team Spirit. But saying that, I think what we saw in Astana is if Donk is not playing out of his skin, that team has very little going for it in general. Like it is easy for other teams to get their number. And this is something that I've been trying to bring up on the desk, but it's always difficult because they're winning, right? And it is the question of like, how do you shut down Spirit? And of course, everyone's first answer is like, oh, we'll shut down Donk, but you can't do. But when he's not playing, there's so many holes in Team Spirit now. And I do think teams like Vitality have seen it. So
by the way, just as an aside, before I forget, that's like, you know, that famous cartoon graphic of a board meeting and someone saying, how do we fix this problem? And the third guy says the stupid thing and they throw him out the window. The joke is, if you had the meeting in Spirit of like, again, of some team playing Spirit and they go, how do we stop Spirit? If the first guy goes, you know, maybe you focus on their Mirage and sometimes they're a little bit dodgy on Inch or whatever, that's like a good answer. If the second guy goes, well, you know, Shiro can play a little bit passively, maybe, you know, like force him to save a lot. If the third guy goes, just shut down donk, he gets thrown out the window on that analogy. Like that guy shouldn't even be in that. That's not even a fucking topic. That you can't shut down players like that. It's not possible.
Yeah, so it's like it's a frustrating one, but there's clearly issues there, and I do think that the Vitalities and Mals and Falcons have seen it and they're figuring it out. And the problem is that I don't think Spirit's playbook is deep enough to I don't think they're changing. I think that they just keep doing the same thing, and they just pray donk will play well. And I would also stand on a stage and look that freaking miserable, knowing that the mage is coming and realizing that how I'm not even freaking 19 yet, and my entire job will be to carry these 4 guys over the finish line. I'd also look freaking sad because like it's a team game. Like sometimes I can't play as well as you want. It leads me to the Kyousuke question though, because I am curious. This is a conversation I've been having nonstop, and I'm super curious about where everyone sits here. So obviously, from what we've seen, it's reportedly now confirmed Kyousuke will be sold to Falcons. Do you think that Spirit and the money thing, because I know a lot of people will bring this up and say, oh, it's for the money. Like Team Spirit has a TI and whatever else. Like I'm pretty sure that they have money. But is it, in my mind, it fits into 2 sections, right? So Kyousuke, do you sell him because 1, you believe so much in the major winning roster you currently have, you don't think you need the upgrade? Or 2, did you sell him because you actually don't rate him as much as everyone else and you were quite happy to let him go?
Okay.
That was my first impression. The problem is that people that seem to initially agree with me seem to go work PGL Astana, come back and go, actually, so it sounds like they learned something and they're saying they actually just wanted the money.
Put it this way, Maui said it explicitly. You don't have to cover it, Voo. Basically, let's just say be careful. He didn't say who told him, but if you're not an idiot, you can figure it out. He basically said, because he himself, I think, on Snake and Banter had said some comment or hot tip point. He said something like, if Halley is the one who decided Kyousuke should leave, then that sort of speaks to how he envisions the team, and he doesn't think they need more firepower. And basically, it was communicated to Maui. I was told that, like, actually, it's the other way around. If anything, the people in the team want Kyousuke, and it's maybe the org that's like, now we can sell him. Is that what you heard?
Yeah, I didn't hear that. Yeah, no, sorry. I heard exactly that. That's what I heard. Right. I heard Maui Snake saying that. And he initially seemed to agree with me. So it's like, maybe that's not the case, because I don't know if I'm as sold as on Kyousuke as I was on donk. I mean, I'm definitely not. I don't know if he hasn't played the same level of competition. They're like barely even playing top 50 teams. He could be a complete failure. So complete failure. He could be only like a top 20, top 30 player, not like a top 10 player.
Yeah, to be fair, he did make it where if you're not like a generational top 10 player, you're a complete failure. He did the Reddit thing from over there. It's all good. It's all good. Reeled it back.
Are you not the best of all time? Tough shit, you're terrible. There we go.
But I mean,
Single
like
fan status. Okay.
If we question like Spirit at the major, I don't even think their placing matters. It's like, who do they play? They go into the quarterfinals, they play Maus, Falcons, or Vitality. That's like an expected loss. Like Maus is maybe 50-50. So. The other 2, that's an expected loss. So it's like they just have no upwards mobility, I feel like, unless donk pops the fuck off. That's it. That's their only win condition. It's
By the way, I'm
so
with
limited.
you on the Kyousuke angle, because what people always forget for some weird reason, this is why I actually like being the historian. People have a really hard time like remembering the order of things. What people always forget is this: everyone else remembers donk once they got Shiro in 2024, and they go, his first LAN was kind of it. No, he played a bet boom at the end of 2023 where there was like VP, Astralis, and he smurfed already on LAN before they got Shiro. When they had Artfrost, he'd already smurfed. So the difference is, I'm with you, Voo. I could tell way more after that LAN. Like, I see now why Chad and all them are hyping this guy. This guy is mega. Look, I didn't know he'd be this good, obviously. You have to see them at like the top level. But the difference is, the Kyousuke guy, I've seen him play a few of the online games. I don't think he looks as good to me. Like, he does look like, if you forget donk and Monty and these like outliers, he does look like a really good CIS prospect with a rifle who plays aggressively and hits a lot of headshots and kind of look like a star playmaker or whatever. But people acting like it's definitely going to be like another donk. I think that discussion muddies the waters on this one. I think because people are making it sound like if you sign him, you're definitely number 1, and if you sell him, you can't be number 1. It's not that black and white to me.
I mean, he reminds me more of like a Axile or a bit, where they have like these insane, like good movement and some insane like headshot potential and that type of thing. But that's why I wasn't sold on donk initially, is that just doesn't stay. That like, you don't stay with the ability to out aim everyone forever. Like that goes away. The one thing donk has is he has ridiculous like evasion And then he also has this unbelievable spray where it's like if he doesn't immediately hit you in the head, you're dying in the body 4 shots later, and it's like he never even tried to hit you in the head.
Look
It's
up
like
that 4-kill he did on Nuke, guys, when he's on CT over towards the red bot. That spray, I don't know if I've ever seen anyone do a spray like that in CSGO at Voo. It's impossible. It's impossible.
And Kyousuke doesn't have that. I don't think his spray is that good. I don't think his movement is good. So it's like he could be a top 5 player and then just fall off the. Like he could do exactly Axile's career progression. It wouldn't surprise me that much, honestly.
How much does it suck for Kyousuke that this is the conversation we're having? Basically, like, if you're not freaking donk level good, you're just fine. And you're like, if donk wasn't around, we'd all be talking, oh, this young new talent.
Well, I'll give you a counterpoint. On the one hand, I'll agree with you. Those are absurd actual expectations. If people ever go to the first ever Snake and Banter after Katowice, one of my ugly points was, actually turned out donk was the outlier to this equation, but I said, I actually think he's going to get the most unfair pressure ever put on his shoulders right now, because he is going to be told every event, you have to already be better than Monacy and Zimu every event. But on the other hand, here's why I don't feel as sorry for him, Sam, because that hype is why Kyousuke never played one tier 1 map his entire life, is probably about to go and be one of the highest paid players in the entire world and play with Chex Notes, Nico and Monacy. So you know what? I do feel a little bit bad for him with the framing, but you know what? Then a bit of that sympathy evaporates at the same time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Actually,
pretty good job to get, you know.
Yeah, now you put it that way, I'm like, that's a pretty sweet. That is a sweet gig based on the donk hype. But back to the spirit conversation. I mean, is the fix changing a player in an ideal world?
Remember, he used to be a Reddit moderator, and I'm a shithead who wasn't a pro, so we're always going to say yes to that.
Like, what day?
Doesn't matter. You will never live that down. That scarlet letter will be stitched upon your outfit for the rest of your days. As far as I'm concerned, secretly, you were the one who deleted all my shit off Reddit. You weren't, but you know what? You're the face I've put on Reddit moderators, so you just are, okay?
It was like, I got in there, and it was like a race to delete the most shit. That was like how it works there, and I was like, I'm here to like remove bad comments.
Sure.
Whatever.
But anyway, the bigger point is, unfortunately, I do think unless you are someone who is in a top pro team, top pros tend to go with the opposite approach. Like, no, we can still fix things or role change or change them out. I think if you're outside of teams, because we don't know the weird intangibles, I think usually the move is a roster move. The bigger question to me is this one. This is why actually the Spirit one's an interesting one. I think the reason why it probably is a roster move is because, look, as you saw with Voo's framing, you can argue who they should replace, but the difference is it does feel like one piece, because they've already got Donk and Shio, would put them to the top. Normally, when teams have actual fundamental problems, I usually think you need a couple of changes. You need like a role change and a swap, or 2 people go in and out like you had in Liquid. So I think for this one, I think it's one roster move. But as he said, though, the which one it is the fucking $1 million question. I feel like you can go back. Essentially, there's only 2 players off limits. I'm with you, mate. There's only 2 off limits.
Yeah, the problem is, I mean, I rate Magic's higher than most people because when I look at Magic's play, he's actually a pretty competent CT side anchor. That's not that easy.
He's quite an intelligent player, mate. Yeah, he clearly knows what he's doing.
And he gets the short end of the stick to a degree that almost nobody ever does. It's like
he unironically mains an SMG, mate. That's real.
Yeah,
like that's not even a joke.
So but then statistically, he also is just really way worse than Zontix. So it's hard to justify. But at the same time, like Zontix, the biggest problem I think Spirit has, other than the fact that Chopper just can't frag right now, but the biggest problem they've had is that they have one really good aggressive player in Donk, and then their second aggressive player is Magix, who's just really inconsistent. So it's if Donk's having a bad game, then your 2 best players are these passive lurker-style players. And it's like, well, if Donk isn't creating space, you're just gonna suck. You're not going to be able to do anything. So it's like maybe you could replace Zontix with someone that's a little more capable of getting aggressive and making plays. And then if Donk has a bad game, then you have like this extra gear you can go into, because at the moment the players they have just don't. It's not even just that they're not good enough; it's that they don't play the right style to create space if Donk isn't doing it, in my opinion.
Yes.
New IGL. So maybe.
Here's the thing.
Does anyone know if Shui can speak Russian?
First of all, I just say generally when people are Polish, that question would be funny 10 years ago. It's a little bit on the edge at the moment. You know, I don't know that they appreciate that one. Put it that way. It's not a big deal though. But as far as I know, I don't think he does. I would guess.
Who are you getting boom?
By the way, who are you're laughing, but unironically, I would consider that. You wouldn't?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like,
because as you said, here's the thing, you sort of set it up for it. Here's the problem.
Yeah.
If we have to keep Spirit very similar to what it was before and only change firepower, then you have to keep Chopper, because as far as I can tell, Chopper and Ali do have some connection. They clearly like execute the game the way they want. But I'm with you. By the way, I don't even know why that has to be a thing. Like, I never thought Spirit had the craziest T-sides and, like, team chemistry anyway. Why can't we just make it a bunch of skilled players and play a bit looser and have, like you say, donk and Kyousuke and people? So if you want to go that route, Boomich is your man, mate. That's your loose caller right there who's going to let the stars off the leash, as it were, right?
Problem is, it's just hard to justify like picking up Boomich from Bet Boom that I don't think is even doing that well.
True.
Into the team. But that if there was another IGL, if it was like the English speaking world and there's another IGL that's really respected, that's also a good frag, because I don't think Chopper's a bad IGL. He's just like a C tier IGL. He's not losing you games, but I don't see him really winning you games to justify his current fragging potential. And so it's like, who can you pick up? It's Boomich is the only option that comes to mind that I can like fucking after that. The next IGL I can remember this Russian is Jerry, and I think he's retired.
True. No, there's not many. Unfortunately, all the names have withered away. No one's getting J-Man. He'd have to be the AWPer. Yeah, same thing. Electronic isn't even an IGL now, even if he tells you he is. So I'm with you. There's not really many names left is the problem.
Spirit is the big question mark. We have to just wait until after the major to see what happens there. But let's talk about...
one last thing to throw in there as well. There's one other reason why I think if you're Spirit, it might be a mistake to let Kyousuke go, which is he's not just going to Bet Boom. He's going to a team that's already better than you. Like, that's really worrying. Like, by the way, that's another reason if I'm donk, I might be tilted. Imagine a world where I already lose to Falcons anyway, and then you're just going to put a guy I think's really good on their team too. Like, that's fucking depressing.
Do you know what kind of tilts me is if it is a money thing? Like I said, this Orga is actually doing pretty well when it comes to winning shit. Like, I'd be super mad if I was playing for them, being like, "Hell, I got you a major. Like, you've got this, and now you've sold him to our biggest opposition. Like, you have literally." And imagine, like, we saw what Nico did with Manasi. Like, imagine what he can do with another one. And now Manasi's a bit more experienced. I think Falcons' IGL is really good. Like, it's a mess. That to me just makes no logical sense.
By the way, this is only a joke. This is only a joke. But if you're watching this episode, start learning Russian now, cadiaN. He already made CSMG badly, but whatever.
Magic.
Yeah, it's all good.
If I could make one prediction that can age badly, I actually think this might be a great move by Spirit. In that they're selling Kyousuke not because of how good Kyousuke is, but because of how good Donk is. And so they just don't think he's the next Donk. Like, if he goes and plays in Spirit, maybe his stock goes way down because he's not nearly as good. And so maybe they just think that they can replace him with another talent. Like, maybe with that money, they can buy 3 talents they put on Spirit Academy, and one of them is going to be nearly as good as Kyousuke, and then they bring him up to the roster. Like, if that's the plan, it makes a lot of sense to me. But that does rely on the idea that they don't necessarily see Kyousuke as like as good as some people see him, because I know some people see him as like this next level talent.
I just appreciate that for some reason, because it's such a bizarre move. And aside from those weird insiders where half the time they make the shit up anyway, none of us have the connections to actually get to the bottom of this story. So at this point, like, an actual real segment we'd all like to watch is just hook Spirit players up to a lie detector and ask them, "Do you actually think Kyousuke is good?" Like, that section would bang. I'd watch that. I know it.
I also think it's the price tag, right? Like, I sit here and I talk, and I'm like, why would you sell him? But like, if that Saudi check arrived on my table and it was as massive as it probably is, and maybe like, he's still young, he's unproven, like we've said. Maybe I'd probably also go, you know what, actually, that sounds great.
The numbers people were quoting online is very close to what they paid to buy Shiro, who was a completely proven product, to their team like a year and a half ago. Like, if you can get that money back for a player that's never played, that's why I say, if you're the guy who's like the GM or the owner, this move's a slam dunk. It's like, I've already got like the best player, a top 4 team, I won the last major, and I can sell the guy for millions. That just sounds like everyone's happy, right? That's why I say it's why business always interferes with competition, unfortunately.
But then you do run into the G2 problem where the players might just be pissed and like not want to play with you.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you're not like making the moves that you want them to make. Yeah, I think that's the biggest downside. If he is good, you're really screwing yourself.
And then here's where you're actually fucked, though. Look, this is way out in front, so it's not a real prediction. But here's the angle if you're Spirit you haven't thought about. Is if you mess up the roster this year, and then next year it's also not in that greater spot, what happens is, in a year or two, Donk goes oh, hey, I'd like to go and play in Falcon. Then you're done. Then it's cooked at that point.
Oh.
Because if you ever lose that player, by the way, the whole project's collapsed immediately. So I agree with you, actually. They almost should, Voo, take the lesson of G2 and treat Donk like Monacy and Nico and now figure out what he needs to stay in a year and a half from now. Because again, when those players walk, you can't be replaced. You can't bring the next guy in.
Well, how do you keep Donk happy?
No one knows. Weaves, anime stuff, have magics with him or something. By the way, there's another thing. I've made this point before. I joke that the reason publicly we all want Magix to stay is because he's got crazy aura in an auraless team. He's really funny. I also think he has done an insane job doing the Smiths with Shocks thing of like, these guys earn their check in the fucking hotel, mate. They earn it like, come on, Donk. He seems like he's Donk's best mate. You know, he's like Donk's handler in that team. So there is also another factor where I think people are scared to cut Magix for that reason. Because I'll tell you what, Zontix is the guy who unironically is like, oh, did I get a 3K? Good. Whoopee. Like, he has no aura, does he? So in that sense, like, Magix already wins that battle anyway, doesn't he?
Zontix's biggest quote is, we don't feel pressure, like, right before...
the most cursed quote of all time in it, I know. The most cursed quote of all time. Ah, bro. If you're a young pro, just please don't ever say that, even if it's true. Like, it can only backfire on you, I'm telling you. Like, it can only backfire.
Magix is definitely the Donk Whisperer if you see them together.
Yeah.
I didn't actually want to, I didn't want to do this at the end because I feel like it's such a mood killer, but here we are. Navi is a mess. Obviously, like, absolute mess. We saw it in Astana. We heard it. I don't know if anyone, like, the exit interviews that happen, because they normally happen in the break between series, so people sometimes miss them. But Alexi B did a very in-depth exit interview with James Banks. And my God, I wanted to cry at the end of that, the emotional side of me. The guy was like, he just was like, well, basically, we don't know what's going on. There's no real hope. We better pray this boot camp because it's our last shots before the major is like absolutely magical, because it just felt like no one in that heat has no hope. And Blade has been doing interviews for the last few months that give me a very similar feel, which is like whatever was happening last year is just not happening anymore. And that's it. And it's like they don't know why it's not working. So I'm kind of sad because I think we all got on the Navi train last year.
Oh, still mega.
It was pretty damn exciting. To me, they were team of the year. And it was exciting because no one rated them and they were just suddenly winning and winning. And I don't know what's happened. And I don't think it's getting fixed before the major. I don't think it's going to be fixed.
Yeah, I mean, they're an easy team to love because they shouldn't have done as well as they did, but they did, right? And you have Blade giving these interviews that actually are, like, make you think, actually make you think about CS. You have all these players that respect the system so much. You have so much things going right. But then you look at them now and it's like, I at some point they said sometimes you know each other, your teammates too much. I think Alexi B or someone said that before one of these last events. You know your teammates too much, and it's like you get on each other's nerves, things like that. They're just like, when I watch their games, they're not on the same page, and it's like they don't trust each other anymore. It's like they're flashing each other. They're like they're trying to play like perfect instead of just trusting that, you have to, sometimes you just have to take an aim duel. It just doesn't they're not playing. It's because I want to give them a break because the top of the scene is so insane right now with the way Falcons is built, with the way Vitality's built, but they're just not the same team. And it's like, I feel like they're 2 changes away. I feel like Wonderful, unfortunately, has to go. And statistically, JL is one of their better players, but at the same time, I feel like Ime is the same player he was last year. He's not great, in my opinion, but he's the same player. It's like JL has just not been hitting the same peaks. But how do you replace, like, what is he, 7th best player?
Yeah, but here's the thing, Voo. If I asked you right now, he wouldn't even be top 20 this year, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So I know what you mean. It's a hard one, though.
Do you think that it just got, I mean, I know JL did this interview about this a while back, saying like, like the online conversations were getting to him and like he was reading it. And I worry after that, because it was about that time that you saw the drop off. I just worry.
Oh, really, JL? Is it annoying when people say stupid shit to you online? Oh, fucking hell. Well, tell me about it. Anyway, whatever.
For fuck's sakes. I knew this was I should have thought.
It's all good. It's all good. And also, technically, this is why it's a good job I'm not at events, because if they were all around going, guys, what's going on? Like, why isn't it like, I'd just sneak in and go, well, obviously it was a fluke when you won that major, and then you sneak back out. Like,
maybe anyway, that's what they need, though. Maybe they need someone to piss them off and like just relight that. There's a part of me that does feel bad because I do think that like a lot of teams upgraded because of Navi. Because of, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then like they were just doing so much and so well. And like they kind of were able to, obviously we saw this at the major where like Navi's style of play got read, but there was just so much tape on them that you could. They didn't have time necessarily to like adapt it. But I do think that like all of the moves we saw at the beginning of the year were because of that team. So it's got to be a bit frustrating. And then you go from kind of winning all of this stuff and everyone telling you can't, and you kind of showing them the middle finger, to suddenly everything those people are saying coming true. I can imagine it gets into your head. I get that completely. I don't know how they get out of their head. Also, I think Bit looks miserable. I don't know what his vibe is.
What you just said there is also totally true as well. It's actually one of the reasons why when you get superstar players who have like attitude problems, like the Nikos and the Simples, one of the problems is they tend to have made it when everyone told them they wouldn't make it. And so because they've been like right and everyone else was wrong, you're right, it's really hard to come out of that mindset and go, actually, maybe they have a point. Because essentially everyone's like, you won't do this, you won't do that. And it's like, but I did. And I believe in myself and I can always do it. Because I'm with you. It's like when Voo was saying earlier, I actually totally agree. That's how I frame it. I don't look at this year like it's totally incomprehensible that they're bad. I keep thinking, how the fuck were they that good last year? Because when I look at this roster should have been like plucky underdogs that come third and you go, what a great performance. They were number one team in the world. They were literally the only underdog team that almost had an era in fucking CS. Like normally you have to be like a cracked out generational all-star team to have an era. Like they were like that close. They actually could have done it. They were the team of the year. I'm with you. But the problem is, like if you look at their squad, even though this is very reductive, the only players I think are in contention to be generational is Bit and Alexi B. I don't think those other three will ever be thought of in 10 years as like the legends of the game and people like JL had his chance. I'm with you, but I actually thought that last year generally he played very well. The problem is he is one. Everyone does the usual thing where they bag on fucking Immer because he's Immer from last year, or Wonderful just gets it because he's the AWPer and every pleb can see when you miss an AWP shot. But I'm with you. I actually think the biggest drop off by far is JL, mate. Like that guy went from like money in the bank in a big pressure game to like you don't even get to play the pressure game now because he's just batting off the games, mate. It's actually sad.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at Jail, it's just that my problem with Jail is that he is often set up for success, that they have rounds that hinge on, you do things like you'll do like an outer pressure and then you'll have someone lurk ramp on nuke, or you'll have someone like lurk out squeaky with a molly top. They set him up for these good situations that the round hinges on him getting a kill or it becomes very hard. And last year he was getting those kills and this year he's not getting those kills. And I don't know if the solution is to not do that. I don't think that's the solution. It's just he just needs to get those kills again, but that's not happening. And then you also have this problem where Bit has had now 2, I think, map 3s in playoffs where he's just absolutely disappeared, which is concerning. I actually watched the whole one at this event, and he really didn't. To be fair, he didn't have much of a chance. Like, he actually just got owned many times, but then there was several deaths that were like, Wonderful misses a shot that he's supposed to hit, and then he dies. And it's like, I can see how he's getting tilted. Someone misses a flash, and he gets team flash, and then he dies. I can see how he's getting tilted. Like, I think it might be a compounding issue where it's just like, nobody thinks that their team is good enough to win, and then you have these small mistakes, and it's like, well, there goes our shot to win. Like, we lost this round, there goes our chance to win. I feel like his performance, I feel like, might be just a kind of a symptom of the team more so than him struggling individually that much.
Last year, before they completely fell off, but they were gradually like falling off the top spot towards the end of the year, going to the major. If you suggested back then, like I did, maybe what you do was like the panic move is you bring in Simple. Everyone back then would be like, no, because it destroyed the team. No, but what you just said there, Voo, is why you do that move. Because here's the difference. Oh, Simple might get mad at you fucking up, but he always thinks he can win the game. The problem with like people who've just been role players like these guys is they won from the strength of their team. It wasn't that they were just dominating 1v9. So I'm with you. When the team structure falls away, a lot of them look like they're just looking around like, right, who's going to win the round now? And it's not them. They're looking to take over the game.
Well, he's got a little bit of a wind up with FaZe. Maybe he gets a little bit of practice, comes back in.
By the way, I think that is a real possibility. I told you, I think last year if they didn't win the major, they were thinking about that as a potential another move. And I think this year, if you look at the timing, he is technically like, loaned to this team, just like he was with Falcons. And if this major was the one where they were to fail Voo, like say they just got grouped or something, wouldn't that be like essentially if he's not going to join FaZe or doesn't want to, he's already got a contract with NAVI. This would be the most perfect time to just bring him back in the roster for a few months.
As long as Simple wants to play. As long as, like, if there's a reason that, like, maybe NAVI was, like, charging too high a price and he had teams that wanted him and they wouldn't let him go, so now he wants to leave. If he wants to play and they just continue their current form until the major, they have to get Simple. I feel like that's, like, it's like, as long as Simple doesn't shit the bed with FaZe, like, they just have to get him.
When does because doesn't his contract with NAVI run out?
Yeah, but I think it was in place later this year, though, right?
I think, that's whatever.
Right.
Because my understanding is, and again, this is just rumors, I don't know how true it is, but that like the only team that could realistically buy him out of his contract is probably Falcons because of how much he gets paid and what he's on. But at the same time, like I don't see a Navi. I don't know how true that is, but
By the way, as far as I know, that is probably true. The only issue is, I believe like the Russian team's good, but for obvious reasons, that's like not something we're allowed to think about. No, I think you're probably right.
But I can't imagine Navi just letting the contract run out because that is like a valuable freaking asset,
it'd be
right?
silly to do it, in my opinion. Yeah,
and I also think that like I don't know Simple. I don't know. I know very little about him, but I do think that he loves Navi. Like he is loyal to the team.
Yeah.
So maybe this is for him. He's like, cool. I can see that there's problems. When he played for Falcons, he looked like shit. Let's be honest. Like he didn't look very good. Maybe he's put in the work. He comes into phase. He does a bloody good job, and then he's back on the Navi lineup, and they renew his contract. Like.
That's the dream. That's the dream. That's the dream.
I love that.
I was going to say, that's Thorin's dream. My dream is for
the
Fallen.
idea, by the way, remember, I only got to get one fucking LAN of Alexi being Simple. He played one LAN at the end of CSGO, then fucked off. It's like, what? I mean, it might have been 2 LANs, I can't remember. But it wasn't, I think it was 1 LAN. I think it was just that one tournament. Like, you never even got that. That's another pairing I always dreamed of, is like, put like a great IGL with this guy, especially a looser style one. That's the dream.
Oh, but my fairy tale is Simple never comes back because I was clearly the GOAT. And
there you go. Okay. That's how you know he's a Reddit moderator.
There we go. That's how we know. Who's never coming back on Feed the Trolls after that?
It's all good.
My dream is for Fallen to play forever. Thorin's dream is just for Simple and Alexi B to be reunited on Navi. There we go. Actually, I'd put Carrigan in the mix. Carrigan and Fallen to just play forever and never have bad days. That would be my dream.
I would make a joke like we could make your dream come true and just create a seniors circuit. But then I realised the follow-up joke would have been who would be the talent that would work that. And then I might hurt people's feelings. So I'll just move away from the mic on that one. You know, Red Eye, I guess. He'll come back. There you go. I saved it.
Oh, I had so many like inappropriate jokes that I was about to make.
Of course.
But no, those are not for camera. I should not.
Bottle it for now.
Or
we could do what we used to do on By the Numbers, which is once eventually Richard realised that we were getting in too much trouble. If I ever had a really edgy joke, I had to type it to him in the chat of Discord. He would read it, and then sometimes he would even go, "That is a good joke, but don't say it." And we got like a safety firewall invented eventually. It's all good.
I'll share a little snippet that I've got to share this snippet with all of you now because this is a safe space. And this has just reminded me. So on day 1 at PGL Astana, I realized that I was going to throw to DDK and Anders, and I came up with this.
Oh, this was a banger. I love this. Yeah.
But I went to 2. I don't know Dan DDK. I'd never
you're
met
worried
him.
if he'd be upset by it.
So I always like to check.
Right.
So I went to 3 other talents and said, "This is the line I'm thinking of doing." I told them at breakfast, and I was like, "You guys know Dan. Should I do it?" And they all went, "No." They were like,
"What?"
They all just said to me, they were like,
"Okay,
it's no."
I wish I'd been there because I would have just told you. Who gives a fuck? He's just got back in the scene himself. He has to take it. Yeah, who gives a fuck what he thinks?
So they said no, and then I said, maybe I'll tell him the line before and see how he feels. And they were like, oh, maybe just leave it. And then I went to Richard. I actually sent him a WhatsApp, and I was like, I came up with this line, and I don't, I don't know if I should do it. It's probably going to upset people. And he went, no, fuck it, just say it.
There you go. Perfect.
What we did is we found a middle ground. I did go up to DDK and Anders, and I said, I want to say something. It's a little bit spicy. I think it's funny. Do you want to hear it? And they went, no, but you can do it. So I went, okay, there we go. I kind of asked for permission. So
I've got a bit of awkward context, though, that might haunt you a little bit.
Fans want to hear it. I didn't
no, by the way, it was a heat rock. It was a really good line, by the way.
Let me hear it. Tell the fans.
Oh, basically, what happened was she just basically said, something like, I think it was DDK's birthday, right? So it was like, oh, Dan, you're getting a bit older. Maybe you and Anders can join. You're now an old boy. Maybe you and Anders can form a club. Because she was referencing when Bardolph did and now over to the old boys club when he was with DDK and me and Richard Lewis on the desk. I will say, you did forget that last detail there, Sam. You did forget the detail that it was Richard Lewis who was insulted by the phrase old boys club. So you essentially just asked him, do you want me to get revenge on one of the people who sat there? You didn't think of that angle. But by the way, I'm glad Richard was there to be a bad influence. If it
Richard
wasn't me,
said do it.
Richard.
And then Yanko heard me ask for permission and just shook his head and he said, "We don't." Yanko's words were, "We don't ask for permission."
There you go.
So there we go.
Yeah.
That was the guiding. But good on DDK he laughed. He actually came to me afterwards and said he thought it was really funny. So there we go. Good times.
And this is one of those ones where you're like, yeah, I just got 4 no's in a row. Let me just keep going.
No, I love it. That
was my best though. Is the people that said no were like, for fuck's sake, Sam. But they know me. So they were just like, You really just, I was like, I just was looking for approval. I realized in that moment, like, you know, some people say they want feedback, but they actually just want you to tell them what a good job you did. In that moment, I didn't actually want an honest opinion.
You wanted an excuse, permission, right?
Permission.
Yeah, of course.
I just wanted permission. And what I learned is I'm
It's
just
a good
not,
line.
I'm not going to ask for permission anymore. I'm just going to do it. And hell, whatever happens, happens, right? You just say it. Everyone else who's done it seems fine, other than like, you know, Red Eye and a few other people that have been cancelled along the way. I'm appropriate the rest of the time, so we'll be fine. Yeah.
It was a good line. It was that's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't think it deserved like 10 minutes of the show, but there we go. So final thoughts on PGL Astana. Now we've seen these teams. We've kind of got a little bit of a stress test going into IEM Dallas in the major. I mean, what is like the key takeaway from this event for you, Voo?
Fucking everyone looks shit, and except for
true.
HooXi looked pretty good. Like that's about it. Like, to be honest, everyone that went there that had high expectations were bad.
Technically, if you're just only contextually looking, like FURIA was better than expected, Astralis was better than expected. I would actually say NIP was all right. These teams I think gave a decent showing for themselves. I agree though. The problem is all the big names shit the bed. Like Spirit won the event and didn't manage to look good, which is impressive. Aurora look like they can still lose to anyone in the world, and then Mongols didn't even beat Aurora. So it's like, I know what you mean. Unfortunately, what could have been the big storylines for the big names, I don't think they came to fruition. It's more like the middle of the table teams that had the chance to show off, I think, for this one.
I think every team that had positive, like Gamer Legion 103, you have like Spirit, Navi did terrible, but then all the teams that nobody expected anything of, NIP that everyone's been making fun of all year, do well. Like, you know, Astralis and FURIA that nobody would have thought that they would do this well. I believe every once in a while I really expect Astralis to do well. I'm like, they just have it all together, and then they shit the bed, and I'm like, never believing in these fucking idiots again, and finally do well. It's actually kind of complete counter narrative.
That's why we love Counter-Strike. We didn't even get to talk about NIP because, I mean, they also had some bangers with, I mean, I think their game against Spirit was really interesting for me. We didn't get to that. We didn't get to
appreciate
Mongols.
that you went back and did the Thorin, though, where you just go back and take the clip of yourself saying some cool shit earlier. Like, see, didn't we all say it? We were all right. Like, you did, even though that was ages ago.
Did you see that?
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
I mean, it was
all just me.
Yeah, you were just hyping up Snappy. I was like, that day, I was like, this is it. So there we go. I'm keeping all of this. Also, there's a clip of me saying that FURIA's going to win the major. If that miraculously happens, my God, I'll look like a genius. So there you go. That's the end of the show because we've technically run out of time. We still have lots to talk about. We will have another episode at some point. We'll consider bringing Voo back, even though he was a Reddit moderator and deleted all Thorin stuff. We'll consider it for future episodes. Let us know what you thought about PGL Astana in the comments, and we'll see you soon.